For most of
Welcome
you
back.
joining us in America, it is President's Day, and most of us, some of us, do have off. Jordan, myself included. I am back after dealing with some health concerns, but I'm good now. And Jordan, what a time to come back! Is one Mr. Jon-Eric Sullivan has started this week out with some cuts, and they were all in groups. So as most people have probably already seen it now, the Dolphins have announced that they have cut Bradley Chubb, Tyreek Hill, Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, and James Daniels. As of right now, none of them have been designated as June 1st or not. And if none of them are, I believe we are still cap compliant, if not almost cap compliant. So we should be good. Jordan, none of these moves are unexpected. I think we all knew all these guys would get cut. It just seemed the timing probably is throwing everybody off, but this is the road to the rebuild. And I've seen some people freaking out, but why?
I don't think there's any reason to freak out. And I don't know how much you watched. I know you were a little down for the count. Me and Kevin said, I don't know if you saw the beginning, me and Kevin said you had important business meetings with Carpet Dinosaur, and that's why you weren't able to make the GM session. But on our session, we talked about all four of these players. We talked about Tyreek, Bradley Chubb. We talked about Nick Westbrook-Ikhine and James Daniels. And the only one that we disagreed on and that we didn't have us moving on from in a pre-June 1 move was James Daniels. That's because there wasn't a ton of cap space freed up by moving James Daniels, and not enough that outweighs if you feel like you have a capable guard on your team. Now, we did say that it would come down to, do you want that guy on your football team? And the answer, obviously, as of today, is no. Westbrook-Ikhine is another one. It frees up about $2 million, but it's another. I want a different player at that position, so it's time to pinch pennies where you can. And the two bigger ones, and the ones everybody's going to want to talk about, are Tyreek Hill and Bradley Chubb. And I think when it comes to them, it's a lot easier to trade in Madden. It's a lot easier to trade in my GM mode on sticktothemodel.com, which we love so very much. Here's a hat, Zach. It's a little ducked up here because I've had this one for years. It's a lot easier to trade when there's nobody really on the other side to say yes or no. And I think this comes down to, at the current dollar that Tyreek Hill and Bradley Chubb are at, there's no real avenue to trade them. So this move had to be made. Now it's a question of, when do you take on the dead money? When do you go about that? And I think that the answer is more about what you do with Tua. Because as me and Kevin looked at, if you make Tua a post-June 1 cut and you eat $90 million or spread out, but you're eating a big chunk on your 2027 books. If that's the case, that should be the only dead money you take into 2027. Yep. So Chubb being pre-June 1st, Tyreek being pre-June 1st, if they go in that direction, to me would mean that Tua is going to be your only post-June 1st. But these are all expected. These are all decent moves, and there were no value on the streets for any of these players.
Yeah, and I believe, because you were saying Tua has to be a June 1st cut because there's no way you can get cap compliant if he's right now.
It's hard to field a football team if you make him pre-June 1st.
Yeah. Zach, I know you've been having a rough morning with these cuts, but we all knew even before things went downhill. I came into this season, the 2025 season, knowing that this would be Bradley Chubb and Tyreek Hill's last years with the Dolphins. Just how it is. It does sound like Chubb will not be, or he might not be a June 1st cut. The thing right there, or the reason not to do it is a June 1st cut for him, would be then you would have no dead money in 2027. So, it's short term, sucks short term, but it's all about putting yourself in the best position long term. I don't think this is as hard of a rebuild as many people think it is.
No, it's a retool. It's
retooling.
You got to clear the books, which sucks. But as you look at the finished product of what me and Kevin did, which you can find on YouTube if you haven't watched already, it's not. We have some pieces on this roster that can play on this team in the right situation. We have to allocate our money better, and you and I have been saying that for a couple of years now.
Yep, and of course we also have this also frees up money to extend Aaron Brewer, Jordan Brooks, and Devin Achane, who, if we extend them this offseason, those deals don't hit the cap until 2027, which is going to be a year we have a very good cap situation. We have a lot of money to play around with in 2027. The other news coming out, I don't know if you saw this, but everybody's saying that the Dolphins are actively looking to get more draft picks to trade down. I know you mentioned trying to trade for Bradley Chubb. I think Bradley Chubb, there's a market for him, but I also don't think there's as big of a market for a guy who has had two very serious knee injuries in the last 4 years, is 29 years old. And even though he had 8.5 sacks, I would not say he was very disruptive last year. I'm shocked he had that many sacks, and they were mostly covered sacks. But, it's just called ripping the Band-Aid off. You just have to do what's best for you. And would have been great to get a day 3 pick for him, I guess. But it's all about just putting us in the best position long term.
Yeah, and I think that Sully and his kind of team that looks into this, they found that there wasn't a trade there for Bradley Chubb that was beneficial for the Dolphins. It's crazy to say, they should. You don't think that if there would have been a team that was calling and saying, hey, I'll give you a 5th round pick for him, that Jon-Eric Sullivan would be like, nah, we're going to cut him instead. It was clear to them that there wasn't a trade that either we would be taking on too much of the money or we would have to give a pick back with him. I just think that wasn't there. 100% was not there for Tyreek. I'm pretty sure that if you want to get mad about the Bradley Chubb situation, you should be mad that we didn't trade him at the trade deadline. That's the only is thing. The available get mad pamphlet. If you want to get mad about a certain reason, it should be that he didn't get traded at the trade deadline. Other than that, I think all the moves today were expected. And I want to say one more thing, Brett. As you know, and as people know, I'm on the West Coast now. I have woken up early just about every day since I moved out here. I've been an early bird. Today was the first day, because like you said, it's President's Day and I'm off work, that I said, you know what? I'm going to sleep in. I'm going to turn my phone on Do Not Disturb. I'm going to sleep in as late as I can. And I wake up at 10 a.m. to the Dolphins have made 4 moves and 3 different things have happened in my life that I've been contacted about all this morning. It's funny to me how that always works.
Yep. I saw the Bradley Chubb news. I'm like, okay, that's expected. Then I saw Tyreek Hill. And then I see, I believe David Furones was the first I saw where he's just like, all these 4 were cut. And some of it, we just have to look back and say, yeah, we were wrong. We liked the James Daniels move at the time. He played 3 snaps.
Well, we said the James Daniels move is good if healthy.
Yeah,
Westbrook-Ikhine was just a bust to me. That was just
we were very wrong on
live up to what we thought we were going to get.
No, that one, you and I said that we would have one of the best receiver rooms in the league. We were dead wrong. I thought you'd get something from him, and what we got, and this is the reason to be mad at Mike McDaniel too, is because Javon Holland got hurt, with the amount of snaps Westbrook-Akine played, cancels out our we're not getting a comp pick basically for Joanne Holland because Westbrook-Akine's snap count got too high.
No, the Chris Greer, Mike McDaniel, like they really screwed the pooch on the way out. Like Jon-Eric Sullivan, Jeff Hafley, and company, they have a decent hole to get themselves out of, but like we've talked about, it's very manageable. I don't think that these are going to be the only 4 moves, but I think that this was a sign that, hey guys, like we're working on this. This is happening.
Yep.
This is happening quickly.
Yep. Now they keep saying they haven't made a decision on Tua yet. I think it's pretty obvious reading between the lines. Tua's going to be gone. I'd be shocked if he stayed. I know that they've been saying ideally the news from the insiders out there are the Dolphins want to trade him. I would prefer we didn't because if you're trading Tua, you're also giving up a pick for someone to take Tua. And that's not insult. That's not meant as an insult to Tua Tagovailoa. It's just his money, even if we eat some of the cap between that as well as his injuries. At this point for Tua, it's basically just, again, rip the Band-Aid off. Like, I think he'll be cut within the next – it'll be announced he'll probably be announced cut in the next couple days, in my opinion.
You don't think that when it comes to Tua specifically, especially if he's going to be a post-June 1 guy, you don't think it makes sense to carry it out a little bit and see if a team that wants a quarterback, like obviously, like you look at the teams that need a quarterback, and obviously the Raiders don't need a quarterback because they're taking Mendoza. But you look at some of the other teams that need a quarterback, Arizona comes to mind, like the Jets come to mind, although I wouldn't trade them to the Jets.
The Jets have a lot of
limited teams that need a quarter. What'd you say?
The Jets have a lot of dead money. So
the Vikings may need a quarterback.
Yeah.
The
Vikings have Brian Flores, so that's not happening.
Well, Brian Flores luckily coaches their defense and isn't their head coach. And Brian Flores would get to tee off on him every day in practice. Depending on the Aaron Rodgers situation, the Steelers may need a quarterback. And I would find it comical to watch Tua play in a cold weather organization. I think that would be quite fun. But when you look, I mean, the Browns are going to be interested because they still have Deshaun Watson on the books. They're very limited teams. The Colts want to go back to Daniel Jones, but
he's going to be out the year with his Achilles.
So will they be open to getting a guy for a year on a big dollar? But because there are limited teams and there are also a lot of limited options of quarterbacks, I wouldn't mind hanging on to them to see if there's a team out there that needs to make a panic move anyways. And whenever the deadline is to make him a post-June 1 cut, if you get right up against that window and nobody's taken him yet, yeah, then you cut him. But I don't think that's a decision that needs to get rushed until the kind of domino effect of quarterbacks take place.
I see where you're coming from there, but it's also come out that the Dolphins do not want this the Tua situation to drag out too. And I believe at the season ticket holders event last week, I believe Sully did say that they would make a decision by the 12th of March. So there might be some dragging it out, but I don't think it's going to be that long. And despite my criticism to Tua, I do like him. I do think he can rebound in his career.
Yeah,
the issue is
he can definitely be a Geno, Sam Darnold, Mac Jones type guy that does better on his second or third team than his first.
Yeah. I think the big issue for Tua is teams know we want him gone. Teams know what his contract is. I think they're just going to want to wait it out. So I think we're just going to end up cutting him. Where we go from there, I hope at this point you're letting Ewers compete with someone. I know everybody's talking about Malik Willis right now. I'll be honest. If we were to sign Malik Willis, the most I would do is a 2-year, $30 million. So 2 years, $15 million a year, because that's basically a prove it deal. He's going to get more from the sounds of it, so I don't think that's the case. But I don't think you can commit to some much more, especially in a Dolphin situation, to a speculative signing, especially with the quarterback class that is 2027. So that's why I would say, even that's a little rich for me, but it's more of a prove it, and then we can come back to the table if you are a good starter kind of deal. But other than that, like I said, my preference would be Quinn Ewers, and then just go find a veteran cheap backup who you're like, okay, they can be solid in a pinch or keep us looking competitive while we secure our draft position in 2027.
Yeah, I think there are a couple things at play. I think, first of all, when you really look at the Tua situations out there, and this is what the conclusion me and Kevin came to last week on our YouTube video when we decided to make Tua a post-June 1st cut, the only situation that makes sense from a Tua trade perspective is a straight-up trade for Kyler Murray, and I don't think that's good for the Miami Dolphins. And I don't think you're good being in a position where you need to clear the books and start over with a rookie quarterback, and Kyler Murray comes very far to doing that. And a lot of the mentality things, a lot of the work ethic things that we talked about over this last year with Tua, I think you have to look at Kyler Murray being essentially the same. So I think that is the only option. So, yeah, you move on from him. And then talking about a guy like Malik Willis, I'd be okay with that on a 2-year deal. A 2-year, you spend the money is either more up front, which I prefer, or more on the back end, which Kevin preferred. And if he's good in 2026, I don't think that stops you from taking a quarterback in 2027. The class is so deep, and we'll have some more assets, so we'll be able to move around and get a guy. Even if it's not Arch, we'll be able to get a guy we want. And I think that the plan should be to get as many solid quarterbacks through this system moving forward as you can. And so I think that if you can get Malik Willis at a solid number, I also am a believer that you can't punt the quarterback position. And I don't think Quinn Ewers is punting the quarterback position, but you can't ignore and go into it with a bad backup to where something happens to Ewers and we have such an uncompetitive quarterback out there that who is the guy for the Raiders? Nathan Peterman? You get in a Nathan Peterman situation, and then you can't even evaluate your offensive line or your receivers or your tight ends or your defense because they're in such bad situations. Like that to me is where the quarterback is the most important position in football comes into play, that your quarterback position can't be a disaster so that you can't properly evaluate the rest of your team. You need a guy in there that can play the quarterback position in a way that you know it can be played, think it should be played, so that you can start evaluating, okay, what other pieces do I really need in order to get to where I want to go?
Yep. And speaking of that, while I was gone and last week, the Dolphins did finalize their coaching staff.
They did.
I have mixed feelings on the staff.
Me too.
I will say this. The defensive staff, I think, is great. Even Hafley is going to be calling the defense, but a lot of people have said Sean Duggan, or is it Dugan? Is it Dugan or Duggan?
I've been saying Duggan, but I kind of think it's Dugan.
Okay. Well, I saw an interview with Hafley where he said to LaFleur, I'm taking Sean with me. LaFleur said, no, he's staying here, and then they decided to take him. He seems to be viewed as a future head coach in the league. So is Ryan Downard, who is our defensive backs and passing game coordinator. I know he's very highly thought of. Glad we kept Austin Clark. I'm shocked we kept Joe Barry, but he is a good linebackers coach. Not a good defensive coordinator, but a good linebackers coach. And everybody else is fine. Love what we did with special teams. Chris Tabor is a great special teams coach. I like that we have 3 special teams coaches.
Yes, me too.
I think something that is not really appreciated enough is like people just think of the kicking, punting, and coverage games. But special teams is a unit that has hidden points. And something that's very underrated about the Seattle Seahawks winning the Super Bowl is they had an historically good special teams.
Yes. And the Rams are probably playing in the Super Bowl without a historically bad special teams.
Yeah.
So you're okay if your special teams is somewhere in the middle. A really good special teams can help you. A really bad special teams can kill you. And I think Chris Tabor is one of the best that does it. So yeah. I thought that was a good hire. And I think that the defensive staff is a defensive staff that will be here for at least the next 2 years in sync together, and it is the defensive staff that Hafley wanted.
Yep. And I will say this too. I do think the scheme we're going to with Hafley will benefit and get more out of some of our young players. I think Kenneth Grant fits better in it. I think Chop Robinson fits better in it. And something I do think, having watched interviews from all the coaches on our staff, shout out to Mr. S for pulling them and posting them on Twitter. They all talk not only about fundamentals, which I do think our staff lacked badly, but they talk about building around what you have. And while I do think Anthony Weaver is a solid coach who has a head coaching future, I do not think he did a good job of putting our players in a position to succeed.
I never understood that, Brett. For the life of me, I never understood a coach that comes into a new situation and says, I'm going to fit all of these round pieces into my square pegs. Like, you listen, that doesn't mean you evolve to what you have forever. You have an idea of where you want to get. You have an idea of what the scheme is going to look like. However, until you get there, you have to build and format yourself around what you have. You have to morph into, you can't think that Chop Robinson is going to be this big run defending edge player. Like, he's obviously a get after the passer type. I also think he's a guy that can move around a little bit more than we were in the past. So, yep. But without that being involved, I think that Jeff Hafley has his ideal system, but knows that in 2026 and even probably 2027, you're not going to necessarily have the exact players you want. And I love what Hafley did with Micah Parsons, where he changed his system to fit an elite football player like Micah Parsons. I don't think you change your system for every player and you look for scheme-specific players. But with what you have and the talent you have to morph yourself around it. And I think that is going to – I don't think we're going to be good in 2026, but I think it's going to keep us in games.
Yeah. I don't think we're going to be good. I don't think – like, I see people saying we're going to be a 2-win team. I don't see that. I think
our record will be similar to what it is this year.
Yeah. But also talking about players, again, not saying Kenneth Grant was good this year. I don't think he's as bad as PFF says he was. But something I told you throughout the class, everybody was talking about, or draft season last year, everybody was talking about Kenneth Grant as a nose tackle. If you watched him play, he was not a nose tackle. He could become one, but even I said last year, he has the physical talent, but he needs to learn technique. He relies on his physical gifts, and we saw him get beat a lot early. I think we saw where those gifts come through, but I think we spent too much time trying to make him something he wasn't, and that hurt us early on. But to talk a little bit more about the good and the bad, more the mixed of the coaching staff, the offensive staff is very speculative. I will say this. I think as we've seen with CJ Stroud this year, Bobby Slowick is not the reason he regressed at Houston. So I don't think Slowick or missing out as Slowick is a bad, or having Slowick as our offensive coordinator is a bad decision. But I do think it's a bit underwhelming, a bit too safe. I do think he will simplify the scheme a little bit more, as I do think McDaniel's scheme was way too complex and asking way too much from the interior of the offensive line. I get people being mad about Kevin Patullo being on the team. What I will say is this: he was highly thought of in Philly when he had the role of pass game coordinator. That is the role he has now. He will help with game planning. He will help with designing routes. He was a bad offensive coordinator last year, although I will say in his defense, the fact that Philly had to go through like 10 options just to get an offensive coordinator should tell you a little bit more about the situation. Not to defend Patullo, but I will say him being on as a pass game coordinator is not the worst thing in the world. I'm so glad Nathaniel Hackett went to Arizona. Again, him being a quarterback coach, not the end of the world. Didn't want him on the team. Didn't want him. So I'm fine. Bush Hamdan, seen as a up-and-comer. Was very, for those who want Taylor Green, he coached him at Boise State, called plays. So I don't think Hamdan was a bad fallback.
You're going to see a lot of that Taylor Green talk between now and April.
The big one that everybody's kind of concerned about is Zach Yenzer as the offensive line coach. I know Kentucky fans don't like him. He didn't have a good offensive line at Kentucky, but I do know Duke Manyweather, who's the offensive line guy on Twitter, loves him. So there's that. But the big thing about this staff is it's a lot of guys who are coming off of failed offensive coordinator tenures, or guys who have very minimum experience in the pros. Tyke Tolbert was a good wide receiver coaching hire, I think, but wide receiver coaches are kind of you don't really know. Liddell Betts, I'm glad we got rid of Studsville. Nothing against him, but we did need a new voice. But again, running back coach, he doesn't have a lot of experience in the NFL. But looking at our staff,
Pinecrest head coach.
But Bush Hamdan has 1 year in the NFL. I believe Liddell Betts only has one or two. Only one. He only has 1 year in the NFL. Jonathan Krause is assistant wide receiver coach. He was with us. Ron Middleton, tight end coach. We compliment Lemuel Jean-Pierre as the assistant tight ends coach.
That was interesting that he's moving over to tight ends.
Yeah, we brought Matt Applebaum, who was our first offensive line coach under McDaniel, as an assistant offensive line coach. But really, the biggest concern to me is Hamdan, Betts, Yenzer, and Applebaum have very, very little pro experience. So I do have concerns there. But I do think, even if he was the third option, I think Bush Hamdan is a better hire than Nathaniel Hackett.
Yeah, I think we got an upgrade there, and I think we did better off there. I think we're going to look at this offense one of two ways in about 10 months. I think we're going to look at this offense, this offensive coaching staff, and being like, oh, okay, I see the vision. I'm excited for them to grow as a staff in 2027. Or we're going to say that was a masterful tank group to put together for Jeff Hafley. Mm-hmm. It is teachers that also are not going to be winning many football games. That's the other side that it may look like. I think it's going to be closer to the first side. But I definitely think that this is a staff that either our whole staff is going to be together in 2027, or we're going to be looking for a new offensive staff that fits more around whoever our quarterback is going to be in 2027. This coaching staff to me points to it being Quinn Ewers, a minimum veteran type guy, around like Zach Wilson dollars, but not Zach Wilson. I think more like a Jimmy Garoppolo type player, and a Taylon Green type player. I think that we're going to have a very young quarterback room based off of this staff. And I think we're going to have some guys that can teach, guys that can develop young players, guys that can connect with young players, guys that are used to coaching young players, guys that are used to coaching young men, guys that won't. Because I think sometimes when you get a seasoned NFL coach that's had a ton of success, you're not that you're harder on guys, but you think that every group you're going to coach is going to get to that level. And I think there's something to coming into a situation knowing, all right, this is a fun group of young guys that I need to teach. So I think from that aspect, the position coaches make a lot of sense. I think the tight end position is interesting because you almost have like a blocking tight end coach and a receiving tight end coach, just like you have 3 special teams coaches. So I think that what I really like from Hafley is I see the vision of bringing in teachers rather than simply coaches. And I think that when you look at it from that aspect, it's a solid coaching staff for what we're going to be in 2026.
Yep. But let's not make any bones about it. You hire 2 guys in Slowick and Patullo, whose names are pretty much in the dirt right now. Slowick less, because I think Bobby Slowick would have been an offensive coordinator somewhere next year.
It's going to be the theme of our team. The guys that looked a lot better 2 to 3 years ago. Is he talking about this?
I'm assuming so. Yep.
Yeah. This is one of the oldest Dolphins things I have. The logo on the side is faded. I found it in the Nike store in Vegas, probably in the early 2010s. And I've been wearing it since, and I've never been able to find it again. Anyways, but see, people get me on tangents, and I never get back to where I'm originally going. What was I talking about, Brett?
You're talking about the teachers, where we're going with Slowick and Patullo.
Pay the teachers. No, but we're gonna hire guys and sign guys, players too, that like 2 to 3 years ago you were like, oh yeah, I thought highly of that guy. And something happened in their careers that kind of fell off. And now are they going to turn back into that first or second round player that we saw? Or are they going to continue in what we've seen more recent, which is why they made them so low valued? And I think Slowick and Patullo are those kind of guys that we thought of a lot higher 3 years ago. We thought of Kevin Patullo in the exact role that he's in now for us. We thought him highly in that role. Slowick, we thought of highly in this role 3 years ago. So I'm interested to see them getting to work and kind of figuring this thing out, especially with the limited assets they're going to have to work with. But Brett, I have a question for you because I was sent a question by someone listening, and I was told to ask you in a hypothetical trade universe. Are you ready?
Okay. Yep.
This is a hypothetical trade. Let me find the exact trade. The Dolphins send the Giants Jalen Waddle and the 11th pick. The Dolphins get their choice of non-Malik Neighbors wide receivers, so either Wan'Dale Robinson or Darius Slayton, and the number 5 overall pick.
No.
Would you take number 5 and your choice of Giants receiver for Waddle and 11?
I'm pretty sure Wan'Dale Robinson is a free agent anyway.
So it would be Slayton then.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't. I would need more than that for Waddle. It just that again, it kind of goes to then now you're not going to be able to evaluate the quarterback position at all. Yeah. You were talking about earlier, you won't have a roster, but we need to have a rosterable quarterback. We need to have rosterable wide receivers too.
Yes.
So no, I wouldn't.
I also said no, but I said I'd throw it your way.
Yeah. The issue becomes there is who are you trading up for? Like, yeah, Jordan Tyson or Carnell Tate would be nice, but
Well, I think if
honestly,
you're
I would
going to
rather.
5, you're getting either Maui Goa, Arvell Reese, Ruben Bain, or Caleb Downs.
Yeah, and you might get a chance of Caleb Downs at 11. I would rather, if it's a wide receiver, I'd still rather take my chances on a wide receiver falling to us. But no, it would need to be. I would need more than just the 5th, and I am not swapping the 11th pick. that's the other thing. I'm not swapping number 11 either. So
Yeah.
I
so
couldn't do that.
on that wide receiver talk, I do have a question for you, and it's something that's been killing me lately. I think that Cardell Tate is a great fit for us.
Yes.
I think he is a great fit at 11 if he's there. Jordan Tyson, I think, is a solid fit. He's bigger. He's versatile. I like the fit. I don't think we're taking a receiver at 11, but I'm curious your thoughts on Mekhi Lemon because I'm a really big fan of his. I think I've mocked him as high as going number 8 overall. So I think he's a very good player. If we have Jalen Waddle and we're looking for a number 2 receiver, I don't know if he's particularly a guy that I want with Waddle. Like we just live with the small Tyreek Waddle pairing. And I know it's a different player, but I don't know if I would want to go right to Waddle.
Yeah, that's basically where I'm at. I think he's a great player. I think he can play inside and outside. I think he's a great route runner, probably a better route runner than Waddle is, if we're being honest. But
I've seen him compared a lot to like an Amon-Ra St. Brown type elite guy, which, look, if you're telling me, like, you see what Amon-Ra and Jamison Williams can do, like, if you're telling me that Mekhi Lemon's going to be Amon-Ra, like, sure, that's a different story.
Yeah, I don't hate the idea. I don't say, like, if he's there and he's your best player, you definitely take him. The two thoughts go in my head. One, I do want more size in the receiver room. We do not have that. So that is a big issue for me. 2, when you're looking at when we're drafting, unless we get more picks or trade down, I think as good as Mekhi Lemon is, I think the fall from the next group of wide receivers from him, Tyson, and Tate is a lot less than the fall from like the other cornerbacks or Sonny Styles, the other linebackers, or the other edges if an edge falls, or the offensive line. So I think wide receiver is the one position. Like, I'm not saying you don't take a great player that falls on your lap, but that's one position where you can find great wide receivers anywhere. So I'm not forcing a wide receiver just to take it. They would have to be the best player on the board. So
I agree. And so it's going to be interesting because, like you said, the reports came out, which obviously are music to my ears and a lot of people's ears that we talk to, is that the Dolphins are very open to trading down. So I think that's going to be, when we run these mock drafts, people love this stockpiling picks, seeing how many picks can I get in between 25 and 50. And to me, I think it's not necessarily going to be how many picks can we get in that range. It's going to be how many picks can we get next year. Yes. I wouldn't be surprised if we made a trade 11 to whatever, and then whatever down and get a pick for next year somewhere in that.
No, I'd agree there. I could also see if you get enough picks, even moving from the second into the bottom of the first this year, depending on how the draft falls. But I think the main goal is what I think right now. There's probably, now I'm not saying this will be the case come the draft. I think
do mock draft.
Well, we can do that too, yes. But there are right now there's probably 8 quarterbacks that could probably go first round next year.
Brett, do you want to make one or do you want to sim one to us?
What, like, do one?
Do you want to pick only Dolphins, or do you want to talk out the first 10 picks to get to us?
We can, yeah. Let's do. let's talk out the first 10. Do
All
our
right,
pick.
let me reset this up and we'll talk. This is my favorite thing, Brett. I love getting impromptu. Select all. Start. Stick to the models. Great. And they even updated their homepage again. It looks. Me and Kevin were joking that he's updating it so much that it'll look different the next time we use it. And today's the next time I used it, and it looks different.
Okay. So I think we can just say the first 2 picks are going to be Fernando Mendoza and Arvel Reese. I'd be shocked.
Are you sure and are you convinced that the Jets are going to take Arvel over Bain?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I do think that there's a chance, and when it happens, I'll say that I was the first one on it, and we can find this because I had it in my first mock draft too. I wouldn't be surprised, and it's funny because it's Robert Saleh, if the Titans and Jets talk about flipping here. Because I think that the Titans have a little more of a needed edge, and I think that the Jets have a little more of a need for Ruben Bain. And I think that those pieces make a little more sense in those other spots. So I would not be surprised if Titans take Reese at 2 and Jets take Bain at 4.
Yeah.
For the Cardinals, for me, it's 2 players. It's Maui Goa because they really need an offensive lineman. They need an offensive lineman in the worst way, or Ruben Bain. And I think that Ruben Bain is just, to me, still in that tier with Arvel Reese. So I think it's going to be one of the Miami kids.
Yeah, I would say Mauigoa. They just need talent on the offense.
And again, this is another situation where I could see there a lot of movement at the top, especially in a non-quarterback draft, where like a team that wants Ruben Bain comes up, like if it's the Giants or somebody like that, or Washington. Washington is another team that I could definitely see moving up for Arvel Reese or Ruben Bain, and the Cardinals being in a position at 7 where they can take Spencer Fano or a Mauigoa at 7.
Yeah. Tennessee would take the best edge rusher, so in this case it would be Bain.
The Giants, I think, are interesting here. I think they could go Tate. I think they could go Downs. I think they could go Fano. But I'm more leaning towards Harbaugh. Took Malachi Starks in Baltimore last year, has taken Kyle Hamilton high, had Ed Reed, obviously, in Baltimore. I think that seeing a guy that's the last guy in that top tier, I'd be hard-pressed to find them passing on Caleb Downs.
I'd agree.
Cleveland needs an entire right side of their offensive line, which makes Fano the easy pick, but they also need a wide receiver in the worst way, and there's one from Ohio State on the board. So to me, it's either Carnell Tate or Spencer Fano.
I think it's Tate. I think you kind of punt. Their offensive line was awful this year, but that's kind of the exception to the norm with Cleveland. So I think they go Tate.
And it's so interesting here that outside of the quarterback, the next 5 picks are from 2 schools. That to me is wild. I think that this is the easiest pick to make. I think Washington takes David Bailey.
Yeah.
I think that, again, like I said, Washington is a team that moves up if they can get one of these guys. But I think that 7 is just about David Bailey's floor.
Yeah.
I've seen a couple things at 8 to New Orleans. I've seen Jeremiah Love. I just don't see. And I got a little crap for this the last time I did a mock draft because I had Jeremiah Lowe going in the low teens. I just still don't see a running back going this high in the top 10. I think Mekhi Lemon is a great fit next to Chris Olave. If you like Jordan Tyson, I'd go in that direction too. I think Keldrick Falk is a possibility here with Cam Jordan getting older or being the oldest. And the edge issues they have there. Chase Young is their best edge rusher. So I think running back, I think receiver, I think edge makes sense here.
Yeah, I'm just pulling this up. They don't you have Chase Young.
They traded Rashid Shaheed. So to me,
I think
That's probably Lemon. I would probably say Mekhi Lemon.
and that's
They
what
don't.
I've had in the past. So that makes sense. This is an interesting pick because the Chiefs have a lot of work to do this offseason. If they cut Jawan Taylor, Spencer Fano makes obvious sense. If they move around a little bit and move some corners, you could see Jermod McCoy or Mansour Delane making a ton of sense. Jeremiah Love makes a ton of sense. So it's going to be, I think, very interesting. This, to me, these two picks, KC and Cincinnati, are very interesting picks because the Dolphins have a lot of needs that are all in this range. And if Caleb Downs starts getting into this range, I could see the Dolphins looking to move up. Like if Downs gets to 8, I could see the Dolphins moving up.
I could. Jeremiah Love makes a lot of sense. Fano does make a lot of sense too.
Those would be the two that I would pick. Jordan Tyson also does make sense, but I can't see a team like KC that looks at values very well.
Yeah. I think they would go Fano here.
Yeah, me too. I think that this is Falk, Woods, McCoy, or Delane. I think that this is definitely a defensive pick.
Denver. Denver. Bengals do a lot of interesting things in the draft.
Yes, they do.
I would probably say, without looking at their roster, I would kind of lean towards Sonny Styles. But let me pull up their roster real quick.
I think I remember, and again, look, we're not a Bengals podcast. I just have to go off the limited research I do. But I think I remember the interior of their defensive line and their secondary being more of where their needs are.
Yeah, they do. They don't. So according to the Wikipedia, they have a reliable Wikipedia. They have Oren Burks, Barrett Carter, Joe Giles Harris, Shaka Hayward, and Demetrius Knight.
Demetrius Knight was a decently high pick last year. He was like a second-round pick or something last year, wasn't he?
He was a second-round pick. So you can do that. They really don't have another cornerback aside from DJ
Cam
Turner.
Taylor-Britt, I remember, is a free agent.
Yeah. So, they just have DJ Turner as who I would consider a rosterable cornerback. The only other corners they have under contract are DJ Hill and Josh Newton. Bengals are a team that don't really care about health, so this would probably be Jermod McCoy.
That's what I'm thinking. And I know that this would stab something through Mr. S's heart, but it does when you look at the Bengals don't really care about those injury things as much. And positional need, I think Peter Woods is falling a little bit. I don't think that this is an area where like a guy like Caden McDonald, a guy like Cassius Howell, a guy like Caleb Banks, that to me, Lee Hunter and Christian Miller are two guys I'm really high on.
Yeah.
Those are more late first round guys. Here, I think that is Jermod McCoy.
Yeah. Yes, we will win a game next year. We won multiple games without a lot of the guys we cut today. 3 of the 4 guys we cut today even playing, and the 4th guy and Bradley Chubb was very uninvolved. So yes, we are going to win multiple games this year.
All right, Brett, the Miami Dolphins are on the clock. Is it Jordan Tyson? Is it Keldrick Falk? Is it Sonny Styles? Is it Mansour Delane? Or is it a view of a trade down?
I would view it to trade down. First of all, we talked about Keldrick Falk. He makes a lot of sense when you look at who the Packers tend to have drafted. But
the Dolphins were offered the 14th pick and the 115th pick for 11 from Baltimore.
I would want more, but see if you can get to move that to a 3rd.
Well, Brett, we control every team in this. So if we want a 3rd, we get a 3rd. But I think that when you look at a trade down partner, we have to look at what's on the board and what those teams would want. Yeah. So for me, it's a team that wants to jump in front of Dallas and secure Jeremiah Love. Okay. So you start looking at teams that might need a running back. Minnesota, but I don't know if they're jumping that far. What's going on with Derrick Henry? Is he getting older? They have a stable of running backs. I don't see the Jets moving up. Carolina might, because depending on what's going on with Rico and Chuba.
And also to finish my Keldrick Falk thought from earlier, I think the draft sites are a lot higher on him than the NFL is right now. I think Falk is going to be available a lot later than people expect.
To me, if we're staying on the clock at 11 and we're not moving, to me, it comes down to two players if this is how the top 10 goes. Okay? To me, it comes down to Sonny Styles and Mansour Delane.
Yeah.
I think that Mansour Delane fits a lot of the things that Jeff Hafley wants to do at corner.
Yeah.
I think he can press. I think he can play zone. And I also think that something to his credit that you can't say about Jermod McCoy. And look, Jermod McCoy's been healthy since it looks like January. So it looks like he's going to be able to do everything in the draft process and really set himself up for success. But Mansour Delane had a very good season last year. And Jermod McCoy had an elite 2024, but I think you have to put into consideration that Delane had a very good 2025.
Yeah.
And then obviously you and I have been the conductors of the Sonny Styles fan club for a long time. So I would not be surprised if that's the pick either.
Yeah. I think it would be Delane. I think everybody who knows Hafley talks about how he's one of the new, I say this all the time, but the new age defensive coaches want to build through the secondary and believe that the coverage helps the pass rush more than the pass rush helps the coverage. So I would probably say Delane.
And one thing I'll say is, look, I think that there are a couple good corners in here.
Can I say Colton Hood's going to go a lot higher than some of the people? Colton Hood, he's probably a first-round pick.
Yeah, but I think that a lot of these guys are a big tier down from Mansour Delane. When if you go to linebacker, like me and Kevin the other day took Jake Goldie in the second. I'm very high on Anthony Hill. We know everybody and their mama is high on Jacob Rodriguez. Kyle Lewis is a popular name.
Torian Trotter's good. Torian York. Aiden Fisher.
Aiden Fisher is one of my favorites. So, like, there are guys down here that you can pick throughout the draft and do. And I think Sonny Styles is very versatile, so I think he's different. And with that defensive background that he has, I think that he's a different level. But I'd be much happier with Mansour Delane and Jacob Rodriguez or Kyle Lewis in the third or fourth, more so than I would be Sonny Styles and Igbenogany in the third round. Or Malik Muhammad or Devin Moore in the third round, which to me is why it's the 11th pick right now. And it's crazy because I've flip-flopped a lot. It's Jermod McCoy, Mansour Delane. Unless one of those other guys fall, it's McCoy, it's Delane, or it's moved down.
Yeah. No, I'd say with how this falls, you go Delane.
And we will stop there. That is 2 through 11 because number one is obvious of what we think. And I think it brings up an interesting conversation of if there's an opportunity to move down, who wants to come up for Jordan Tyson? Does Baltimore, does the Jets, does Minnesota want to move up for somebody? Minnesota is an interesting trade partner. I just want to look really quick. I know that we already picked at 11, so we're off the board. But, like, Minnesota has an extra third-round pick. I could see something where Minnesota wants to move and we end up getting, like, 18 and 82 or 18 and 97 for 11 or something like that.
Yeah.
I want to – let's see. I just want to see what it says that value is. Call it 18 and 97. So it says the value's about there.
Yeah.
Let's and it was rejected by the Dolphins. But you see opportunities are going to be there to move down. And opportunities are going to be there to get a player you like. If we move down to 18, Brett, who's a guy that you would think the Dolphins target kind of in that middle level of first round before we get off here?
I mean, someone to look at would be Vega-Ione from Penn State. He's a guard.
Was waiting for you to say his name, Brett.
He's a great guard. We cut James Daniels. Cole Strange is a free agent. Jonah, even though I think he'll be better this next year, there's still a lot of question marks with Jonah. So you got to admit that. So you look at someone like that who brings the nastiest to the line that really only Patrick Paul brings, and probably Austin Jackson. And I guess you could say Brewer's nasty too, but I think he's not really that. He doesn't really finish the blocks like.
I can't include Austin Jackson though because I don't see him do it.
Yeah, and he's probably not going to be here anyway, or he might not be here. So you look at him. Speaking of Austin Jackson, if you get rid of him, you look at a Caleb Lomu, who was the left tackle at Utah to Spencer Fano's right tackle. I think he could play on the right.
It does scare me though to flip a guy. You know, like to me, I would be looking. Tiernan has experience playing right tackle. And it's funny because somebody was making fun of me recently because people are saying his player comp is Patrick Paul. And my response is that worked out for us. Itchy, I call him Itchy. I think he's going to be a guy that people fall in love with as a possible right tackle. Mm-hmm. Jennings Dunker is a right tackle. I'm pretty sure Blake Miller is a right tackle. I think Trey Zune is a right tackle.
Yeah. Go to safeties real quick, because the other thing to think about is a big difference is we're going to go to more of a 3 safety look in a lot of coverages now. Something we didn't.
Which is a reason why, and me and Kevin ended up keeping Minkah Fitzpatrick on our roster. I think he's a guy that you might see stick around.
Yeah. But even then, like Emmanuel McNeil-Harris and Dylan Tiedemann. Tiedemann's actually, DJ has him as a top 25 player, I believe. But you look at both of those guys. I'm a little lower
on Tiedemann than most people.
Yeah, but if you look at those guys too, get another safety in the back end. You might see us go edge. This edge class is looking a lot deeper than initially expected.
A couple lower guys I like in this safety group. Well, and he's not really low. I love A.J. Halsey. And Keontae Scott is a guy that has some versatility that could play all over the field. So I think that that's somebody that we're going to pinpoint and look at in those mid-rounds. I wouldn't be surprised if we took. But you know I'm a huge fan of Bud Clark, Zakee Whitley, Lewis Moore, I'm a huge fan of, even though he's going to be 25 by the end of his rookie year, or he's 25 now, maybe 26. But I think he's a guy we could take in the 6th or 7th round that would give us production. VJ Payne, Kevin talked about the other night. So there are some guys down here. Nwankpa is a guy that I think is very physical. So I think that there are some safeties down there. I wouldn't be surprised if we ended up taking 2 guys from this group.
Yep. And then real quick, just edge. Could I edge real quick?
TJ
Parker probably he'll probably go a little higher.
Right. Well, I'm saying if we move down and are picking in like the 18 to 25 range, TJ Parker's a guy that could definitely see us taking.
Yep. Cassius Howe too. Honestly, in round 2 or even maybe a little higher, Romello Height. David Bailey gets all the hype, but Romello Height is pretty good.
I love Romello Height.
Yeah.
I remember when Romello Height, that number next to him was somewhere in the 90s and I was taking him down there every single time. But I think Zion Young, Gabe Jackus, Malachi Lawrence, Kevin's very high on Derek Moore. I'm higher on Danny Dennis Sutton.
Both of them are great. Caden Curry's really good. Mikhail Kamara.
Max Llewellyn's a solid Packers type, bigger edge guy. Quintavious Hutchins. Here's the thing. Quintavious Hutchins, Logan Taylor at guard, Jude Bowery, and whichever, I think it's Lewis Bond.
the receiver. Those guys played for Hafley at Boston College. So we'd be stupid to not mention them when we're talking about 7th round type guys.
Yep. No, I agree.
But I think that this edge class really sets up well for us to take somebody deep.
Yeah.
And then one more thing to point out when we're just talking about late round guys, me and Kevin were looking at this down here at tight end. Like we're almost, I don't know if we're going to draft a tight end just because there are going to be some guys down here that are undrafted free agents or 7th round type guys that fit pretty well.
Yeah.
I think me and
John
Kevin
Michael
took Kozul in the 7th. We talked about Gillenborg a lot. We talked about Traore some. I think Riley Nowakowski, he reminds me of like a Charles Clay type guy that's like an H-back looking player, but is a tight end. So tight end's a position. I think that there's more of a chance we take somebody down here than us taking somebody up here.
Yeah, no, it's possible. It's going to be an interesting draft. And next week, I believe, is when the combine starts.
I removed myself instead of the draft board. Yeah, I do think the combine is coming up on us fast. So
yeah. So we'll talk about more of the draft stuff with the combine, and we'll definitely get some more draft experts this year. See if Kent Lee Platt wants to join us again to talk up his RAS scheme again.
I just want to talk about his mustache.
Or his mustache, because I'm assuming he has not shaved that. So yeah, we will get going.
Even be a funner conversation if he did shave it.
That would be
pull old pictures of him.
So, but yeah, the off season has started. In the next couple of weeks, news will be coming in quickly. It is time for that retooling or rebuilding, whatever you want to call it, and we're here for it. So
yes, we are. I'm a big fan of what we're doing, and I think that although some of the offensive staff might not be what we love, I think that this football team is headed in the right direction.
Yep. And everybody make sure you like and subscribe to this video on YouTube. It does help us out a lot. Thank you for joining us on this mid-Monday, especially since I know Twitter was going haywire a bit there as well. But Thank you for the support, everybody. We will continue busting out the content as news comes out. So enjoy the rest of your holiday and enjoy the rest of your week, and we will be around.
Thank you for joining us, everybody.